everybody, welcome back to this week's episode of Journey into Legend. I, of course, am your host, Emerald Raven, and today we're going to be talking about the Banshee. As usual, we're going to get right into it. Banshee comes from the Irish, roughly translated to Woman of the Fairy Mound. There are few figures in folklore whose presence is announced not by sight, but by sound. Before the Banshee is ever seen, she's normally heard. And that distinction is everything. Her legend isn't rooted in pursuit or attack, but in warning. She doesn't come to take life. She comes to announce that it's about to leave. That single purpose is what makes her so enduring. In the Irish countryside, especially in places where families have lived on the same land for centuries, the night carries meaning. Sounds are cataloged instinctively. The wind through rough hedgerows, the creak of old wood, the cry of animals in the dark. Anything out of place is noticed immediately. Against this backdrop, the wail of the Banshee doesn't blend in. It cuts through everything else, unmistakable and deeply unsettling. The cry is never described casually. It's not simply loud. It's described as piercing, keening, rising and falling in a way that feels intentional, not random. Some say it sounds like grief made audible, raw and unfiltered. Others describe it as a shriek, sharp enough to freeze the blood. But on a few accounts, they insist it's quieter than expected, almost intimate, as if it was meant for only one household to hear. Regardless of how it's described, everyone agrees on one thing. Once it's heard, something irrevocable has begun. The Banshee is said to appear in many forms, which has led to confusion among those trying to pin her down as a single image. In some stories, she's an old lady, bent with age, her hair long and white, her face lined with sorrow. In others, she appears as a young woman, pale and beautiful, with eyes weeping. Sometimes she's neither, but something in between, ageless and undefined. Her clothing shifts as well. She may wear a gray cloak that blends into the mist, a white dress that glows faintly in the moonlight, or dark garment that absorbs the night around her. In every version, her hair is described as long and loose, and is often described as silver or white, though some accounts claim that it's dark as shadow. The variability of her appearances is not treated as inconsistency in tradition. It is accepted. The Banshee's not meant to be fixed in one form. She's meant to be recognized by presence. Most encounters don't involve seeing her clearly. She's usually glimpsed at the edge of vision, standing near a tree or sitting by a river, perched on a wall, And just as often, she's never seen it all, only heard. But the sound is enough. The banshee is tied closely to specific families, particularly those with Old Gaelic surnames. In these traditions, she's not a roaming spirit who visits anyone at random. She's bound by lineage. When she appears, it's because someone from the family is about to die. This detail transforms her from monster into something much more complex. She's not a predator. She doesn't cause death. She announces it. And in doing so, she occupies a space of grief and protection. Her wail is a warning, not a threat. It gives family time to prepare, to gather, and to brace themselves for loss. In older accounts, hearing the banshee wasn't always met with terror. It was met with solemn understanding. Death was a familiar presence in pre-modern life, and the banshee's cry was part of that cycle. She was feared, yes, but also highly respected. There are stories where families speak of their banshee with a strange sense of ownership. Not affection, but acknowledgement. As though she were a distant relative whose role, while painful, was still necessary. In these stories, attempts to confront or banish her are never successful. She cannot be driven away because she's not an intruder. She belongs. That belonging is tied to an ancient belief in the Sidhe, the fairy mounds scattered across the Irish landscape. These were believed to be gateways to other worlds, one that existed alongside the human realm. The banshee was said to emerge from these places, bridging the gap between worlds. This connection reinforces her liminal nature. She exists between life and death, between worlds, between warning and mourning. There are accounts of people encountering her washing blood-stained clothes by the river or stream. These clothes are said to belong to the person who is about to die. In such stories, if someone approaches her, she vanishes instantly, leaving only the sound of weeping behind. This image ties the banshee to older traditions of death women, figures associated with fate and mortality. She's not random. She appears because the thread has already been cut. Modern interpretations often try to reframe the banshee as malevolent, turning her into a shrieking apparition meant to scare rather than warn. But this interpretation strips away the nuance that makes her legend endure. The original story doesn't portray her as cruel. They portray her as inevitable. There are no reliable stories of people harming a banshee, and few people actually attempt to. Most who hear her understand instinctively that she's not to be interfered with. The fear comes not from her action, but from what she represents. The sound is the message. In more recent centuries, as Irish families emigrated the banshee followed in stories. Accounts surfaced in America, Canada, and Australia, often tied to moments of unexpected death. A wail heard the night before a telegram arrived. A cry remembered only after news was received. Skeptics argue that these are coincidences, retroactively fitted to tragedy, and perhaps some are. Grief has a way of reshaping memory, but the persistence of the pattern keeps the legend alive. People don't forget the sound. Even those who dismiss supernatural aspect often admit that banshee occupies a powerful psychological space. She gives form to anticipation, to dread that comes before loss. She externalizes the moment when something feels wrong before there's proof. In this way, the banshee functions as a cultural embodiment of intuition, the sense that death has entered the conversation, even if no one wants to acknowledge it yet. That's all I have for you guys today on the banshee. Before we exit, I do need to give my final thoughts on this creature. Now, I have read elsewhere, and I excluded it from what I read out intentionally, but there are variations on how the banshee comes to be. Some of them, as this said, was females that are in the bloodline, who have been cursed or who have left their family in love, and that's why they return to warn when somebody's going to leave. Some leave in bitterness, and that's where you get the darker versions of it from. There are legends that say that the banshee is a witch who does come and do harm. I've heard of several different variations of the banshee. There's the one that I talk about here that shouldn't be feared because she's not a monster. She is a loved one coming to warn you that somebody is about to die so that you can prepare. Then there are the ones who come to do harm, the ones who do kill. Those are the evil witches. Those are the ones who left with bitterness. And they use their scream to destroy rather than help. As far as my belief, you guys know where I stand on creatures. I believe thoroughly that anything is possible and that any creature has the potential to exist. And while the banshee leans more into the paranormal aspect rather than the cryptid creature aspect that we are covering on this page, I do believe that it is a perfect blend of cryptid and paranormal, which is why I included it, and I believe that it does very much exist. There's too many accounts, there's too many different versions, there's too much legend behind it for it not to exist. With that being said, I'm not too keen to ever hear a banshee. Not because I'm afraid that it's coming to kill me, because I don't have anybody who hates me that much that I know of. But it's the fear of loss and the sadness of loss that accompanies the warning from this creature, from this woman, that really breaks my heart. And I don't want to hear her, because hearing her very much means that loss is on the way. And that is officially everything I have for you right now on the Banshee. If you enjoyed this episode, please like it and share it with your friends. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell to be notified of all future content, because we have a lot yet to come. If you do have any encounters with cryptid creatures such as Bigfoot, Banshees, or what have you, or any paranormal such as ghosts, demons, and so on, that you would like read out on this channel and get my final thoughts on the situation, please email those to me at emeraldravenparanormal@gmail.com. If you wish to remain anonymous, please put that in your email, and of course I will respect that. Also, if you want to be kept up to date on where you can find me, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, Emerald Raven Mystic. That's going to keep you updated on all of my new products. I do have a couple new things getting ready to come out, as well as the events that I'm going to be at, and what I'm going to be offering at those events. Now, I will tell you, today is Friday the 13th of February. Now, February 21st, which is a week from tomorrow, as far as my time goes, it will be February 21st, 2026, at Rhodes MarketPlace in Sandusky, Ohio, only about 5 or 6 minutes away from Cedar Point. We will be doing our very first paranormal investigation in that building. You can go to their Facebook page to sign up, or to find the event and sign up. I also am there every Saturday offering my spiritual healings through my roots as a nature mystic in the Paco Cuna traditions of Peru. So if you're interested in any of that, please, come see us there on Saturdays. With that being said, you will have the option, or the opportunity rather, of investigating alongside me. You will also have time to just roam the building and do what investigations you want. I will mostly be investigating in one specific area with people. With that being said, I am going to bring this episode to an official end. The details for each Facebook page and my email address will be in the description of this episode. So until next week, be safe, and remember that when it comes to legends, never be afraid to spread your wings and soar into the unknown.